The U.S. president has approved Nvidia's sale of the H200 chip to China, a decision some national security hawks argue will allow Beijing to leapfrog forward in AI development. Let's go to Jay Goldberg, senior analyst at Seaport Research Partners, to talk about this. Jay, thanks for your time.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Nvidia shares got a bit of a boost on the news initially before coming back down again today. We saw the same thing happen for its latest earnings report. What does that tell you?
I think there's a lot of ambivalence about this. There are on the one hand, there's the commercial side of Nvidia would like to sell into China. It's a major market, and they've been cut out of that and lost a lot of share as a result. So financially, I think investors would like to see them being able to sell into China. On the sort of geopolitical side, there's still a lot of uncertainty about the details of the deal and under what terms they can actually sell. They're selling an older product, the H200 from last year, not the latest Blackwell systems or next year's Vera Rubin. And so there's a lot of uncertainty around it. And I think that gives us some cause for concern about how sustainable is this? Will they be able to sell next generation of chips? What's the delay? Will this actually be meaningful to the results of the longer term?
Okay, so these chips amount to about, $5 billion US in sales to China a quarter, apparently, if it was unrestricted. Is it also worthwhile for Nvidia to carry on with this, considering it's up and down, depending on Washington on any given day, as well as now a U.S. surcharge they have to pay?
So I think from a strategic standpoint, there's a very strong need for Nvidia to be able to sell into China. The longer that they're absent from the market, the more room that gives to domestic Chinese competitors to come up with a solution and build that into commercial viability. This is a great opportunity for those kinds of companies to sell, and companies like Cambricom and also not least Huawei to sort of get a foothold in the market and to grow on that. And Nvidia's absence from the market is a sort of pretty serious strategic threat. Again, China is the second largest AI market by most metrics, and so their absence there gives a big window for their competitors to grow there and then potentially over the long term expand outside of China.
Have other domestic companies in China been able to compete? Have they been able to fill that void? You mentioned Huawei is one.
I think that most people would agree that the domestic Chinese solutions are okay, but they're not really competitive. They're not even close to being competitive with the latest Blackwell chips from Nvidia. I think most domestic Chinese customers, their internet companies, would really like to have access to Blackwell, but they can't, and so they'll use, necessity is the mother of invention, and so they'll make do with what they have. There's different demand directives there. There's the government plays a role here, and I think Chinese customers would, like to have Blackwell, but if they can't get it, they'll find a way to use something else and make that work.
Does sending the chips to China pose a national security risk to the U.S.? That's the concern many have been talking about.
Yeah, that's a tricky one for me. I mean, I'm not a national security expert. I think there are some legitimate concerns. There are certainly some legitimate concerns that AI chips from Nvidia will end up being used by the People's Liberation Army in ways that might threaten U.S. or Canadian national security. But I also think that those entities can get access to Blackwell through other means, can get access to Nvidia offshore through shell companies or whatnot. And probably what ends up happening here is that Chinese AI labs, Chinese AI customers for sort of commercial and consumer use, they're the ones who are going to get cut off the most.
Yeah.
So I tend to downplay those concerns, but I acknowledge that they're real.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have mixed messages, right? You have Washington saying, yes, you can sell these chips, but then you have justice sort of cracking down on smuggling operations to get some of those chips to China. You have a sell rating on Nvidia. Why is that?
I'm concerned about Nvidia's growing need to subsidize or discount their products. This is something I've been highlighting a lot lately in my notes. Is they're effectively discounting their products. They don't call them discounts. They don't show up in the income statement, but they're giving rebates. They're doing backstops. They're buying capacity from their customers. So they're taking payment in kind rather than in cash. There are lots of little things that Nvidia is doing to sort of make it easier and for those customers to buy their products. And you have to wonder why, if there's so much demand for AI, like everybody says, why is Nvidia having to discount? I think it points to some slackening of demand and also a growing competitive threat from companies like AMD and Google.
So how long would you say that's been going on?
It's been going on for a while. It has taken a big step upward in the last 6 months. And we saw that in their latest quarter, their backstop commitments have doubled. And we've certainly seen Google come on very strong with their TPU. It just makes me wonder, like, how sustainable is this demand? And, sort of a bigger picture, I'm also worried that NVIDIA's numbers are so large. In order for them to keep this momentum, every subsequent quarter has to be bigger. And we're just getting to the point where a lot of their customers are sort of stretching their finances to be able to afford these ever-growing systems. So I think it just sort of points to a slowing growth outlook for NVIDIA, certainly in the near to medium term.
Interesting. All right, Jay, I'm going to leave it there, but appreciate you joining us on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.